Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we're going to be doing an episode a little bit different than normal. Going to be kind of giving our injury and spring training updates, final updates of spring training, and then after that, since season's right around the corner, we're going to do our top 5 players at every single position in the MLB, which will be pretty fun. I'm going to talk about a lot of guys non-Padre related. Maybe you will see the Padre bias. Maybe you will not. Maybe you'll think that maybe we're too low on some of these guys on the Padres, but we will see that later on in the episode. But I figured we'll talk about kind of the injuries. We'll talk about Jay Groom not making the roster and Ryan Weathers making the roster over him, because I think that I don't know. I have a strong opinion on it. Me and Chase were talking before the show. Chase, you have a strong opinion on it too. So I think that's super interesting. Also, yeah, shout out San Diego State in the Final Four. My stepbrother goes to San Diego State, so he's super pumped. I feel like that was not expected. I don't know. Have you guys been following the tournament?
Yeah, man, they've been fun to watch.
They're just really good defensively, right? Isn't that the thing?
They're really good defensively.
What was that, Chase?
I was gonna say my cousin went to SDSU, so he's a big SDSU guy. He's ecstatic right now. I know the final call was a little controversial. If you guys didn't see that, he got called for a foul for pushing him in the torso on his final shot, and so he called it, and he got the free throw in. Yeah, foul's a foul. Unfortunately, just happened in the biggest moment of the game.
Mm-hmm. See, I missed the last game, but I saw one the other day, so I haven't been too up to date. But if we go, Justin says he eliminated SDSU in the first round of his bracket, so he missed a little bit there.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, I have one of my friends. He bets on college basketball a bunch, and he has literally bet against San Diego State against the spread every single game and lost every single time, which is hilarious. I thought that was amazing. But yeah, so non-San Diego State related, shout out them though, because I feel like that's just something really cool, especially because like San Diego sports was kind of in a transition over the last like 5-10 years. So cool to see them doing well in what San Diego State bets in college basketball. Like, so it's cool to see that. But injury related, I feel like the big name, Juan Soto. I guess you could also toss in Joe Musgrove there. I'm not expecting Joe Musgrove to start the season. It does seem like Ryan Weathers is going to take his spot. For Soto, are you guys expecting Soto to play on Thursday? And if opening day for the Padres is not Thursday, then Friday?
I do. I know there was a tweet that just came out and said, basically a video saying he basically feels like he's ready to go. The guy says he's ready to go. He's ready to go. Hopefully he is there. If not, I don't think he's more than like 3 games out of the season. I think any more than that, and you're just giving him too much rest. He says he's ready to go. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he played in the B game today. Apparently, he was doing Soto things, so it was a very minor oblique injury, and it seems like he's gonna be ready to go.
Which is clutch, because we were talking about this before, but this Padres season got so hyped up, and for a very fair reason. I mean, this roster is absolutely incredible. I feel like if you would ask any of us 5-10 years ago, we would have been like, yeah, okay, this is not going to be – the Padres are not going to have this good of a roster. Padres were like a team, at least for us growing up, where it's like, yeah, maybe they'll have some type of crazy Cinderella story run. And that was about all of the hope that you had there. Not like, is this roster the best roster in the MLB? Because that's the question now. And it would have really sucked to not have Soto and Tatis opening day, and Musgrove as well. It just, not like it would have really mattered, but it would have just kind of been like, I mean, you guys know, like, opening day is so exciting. Like, opening day is the first game of the season. Everyone has a chance, everyone has a shot. So I feel like having Soto, I feel like it means something, maybe more like not actually means something, but it means something to like the fans, and like emotionally it kind of means something. So I hope he's able to play. I expect him to play as well. But outside of that, what do you guys think about this move of Ryan Weathers getting the nod to start instead of instead of Jay Groom in Joe Musgrove's spot? How do you feel? Because I don't understand it.
So I'm just going to say the stats out loud. It's basically saying the quiet powder out loud. So one guy, they pitched for 5 games. They lost 1, 129 ERA, 14 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, a 1.5 WHIP. The other guy, 5 games, 1-1, 4.91 ERA, 14.2 innings pitched, 20 strikeouts, and a 1.57 ERA. Based off of that, would you go with player A or player B? I go with player A. I'm sure he doesn't have as many strikeouts, but he had a lower whip and he had a lower ERA, which is probably the most important fact. Player B has already had MLB experience, and that's the only edge that you can give him. And when he was in the MLB, my God, he was just getting ran through by lineups. It was unfair. It was borderline abuse on the Padres for what they did to that man. I think you had to go and give it to Jay Groom, and apparently off a strong spring, which was like a 5 ERA, they gave it to Ryan Weathers. I know it does. I feel like they just did a disjustice towards Jay Groom. He earned his spot. He earned his way onto the roster, and they gave it to the other guy because of either big league experience or me and Matt were talking about this earlier, possible trade bait. That's it.
That makes a lot of sense too. There's also, I mean, Jay Groom did have prospect capital before, but there's also a sense of prospect capital. Like, all right, this guy was one of the top guys in our system at one point, so let's hope we can get him out there and get him to that point again. So there's prospect capital in there. The ERA, the spring training ERA, definitely tells a whole different story where Jay Groom was kind of significantly better than Ryan Weathers outside of the strikeout department, where Ryan Weathers struck out 20 in 14 innings. Jay Groom had a little bit of control issues. What was it, 14 walks in 10 or 10 walks in 14, something like that. But other than that, I mean, he looked pretty good with his stuff. I wasn't old enough to watch him play at Qualcomm, Justin, but neither of us were. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really mad about it. I'm kind of excited to see what Ryan Weathers is going to do. Whether he gets rocked or not, I guess doesn't matter to me. Joe Musgrove's going to be back soon. So it's only one start or maybe two starts that we have to go through with him. And I'm excited to see how that goes, just because he did have that prospect capital. He did have that, little stint where he looked pretty good. Even if the advanced stats told us it wasn't going to keep up, he looked pretty good. And yeah, I mean, he's young. He had the potential at one point. I don't see how it could just go away. And the Padres at the end of the day do have all the advanced statistics, all these different things telling them showing them what they maybe want to see out of Ryan Weathers that kind of perplex them to say, hey, let's give him that start. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm mad about it. I feel like I'm more just like confused about it. Like how Chase is bringing the numbers. Which guy's been better? Like which guy do we think is going to be better? And I feel like all of us have, I don't want to say we've written Ryan Weathers off, but I feel like we all felt like Ryan Weathers got a little bit overrated too early, or maybe just like hyped up a little bit too much because he had some early success, even though the advanced metrics kind of told you like, yeah, he's going to come back down to earth. And then he struggled massively, and now he's kind of on a little bit of like, okay, let's see what you got. Let's have a little comeback. And Jay Groom, on the other hand, it's like this guy's, he was drafted high, which Ryan Weathers was also drafted high. But the big thing is we haven't seen Jay Groom. Like, we want to see Jay Groom. Can Jay Groom come in and be an impact player? And that's what I think we all kind of were expecting and hoping for. And I think we all thought that he was going to make the roster over Julio Teheran and Ryan Weathers, and then now Ryan Weathers makes the roster. So Jesus asked this question. He says, do you think this is his last chance to prove himself in the big leagues? And I feel like maybe not in the big leagues would be my main question. My main question would be, is this his last chance to prove himself for the Padres? Because I think you kind of brought up how it could be like trade bait type situation. Well, it could be a situation where, hey, if he's not good, they're going to give up on him and they're going to trade him. So it could be almost like if you play well, then maybe we move you. But also if you don't play well, then we're also moving on from you. So I think this is his last chance in terms of like, if he goes out there and he's awful, then like he's like really on his last straw with the Padres organization. I don't think it would be his last chance in the big leagues because people are always going to take chances on guys. Like, you're going to have a lot of struggles before everyone like writes you off, especially like Ryan Weathers, high draft capital, has had some success, stuff like that. But I do think it's really interesting to see what happens to Ryan Weathers after the start. And if this is just a thing of like, let's just give him one start to see what he has, and then we'll kind of adjust after that, which I think it's going to be. But I did find it really odd that if, you look at spring training and stuff and you're like, yeah, he wasn't as good as Jay Groom, yet Jay Groom doesn't get the nod. And maybe it's also one thing where they're like, look, what is Jay Groom going to come up and do in one start? Like, how important is that to us as an organization? Like, we know what this guy has. We know what he can work on in the minors before we want him coming up. Whereas it's like Ryan Weathers, the time is coming. It's coming down to the wire. And I feel like that's more about what this move is, even though it is interesting. But I am excited to see Ryan Weathers and see, like, he has a new arm angle, stuff like that. Has some more velocity on his fastball. I feel like before his fastball was just going right down the middle and guys were just teeing off on it. So I am excited to see what he looks like, but I just thought it was a little bit odd with that. So it'll be interesting to see. Also, do you guys think he starts? He's got to start, right? Like he's got to get a start because Justin asked if he's going to piggyback Lugo or Martinez. I feel like they're all going to get a start. That would be my guess. As you're thinking?
Go for it, Jace. Hello, Chase.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm a little behind.
Okay,
don't worry. Chance to be a Padres starter, but I don't think it's his last time to be a Padre. I think he still has value in the bullpen. I mean, you do need another lefty in there. You're probably not going to get Pomeranz back. Mortenhone is hurt, and you probably need another high velocity lefty guy. And we've seen Weathers be able to fit that profile before. So even if he fails as a starter, there might be some value as a reliever, which I don't know if that increases or decreases his trade value if he succeeds to be a reliever. I mean, it definitely hurts his value because he's a failed starter, but if he becomes a successful reliever, it probably either stays the same or increases it just a little bit. But I think this is his last chance to be a starter on the Padres for sure.
100%. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because he's so young, and the first time he was up there, he was 20, 21 years old, and the poor guy was getting teed off on. I mean, there was a game after he pitched against the Rockies in Colorado where he looked like he was on an hour of sleep after getting hammered one night. Yeah, he looked bad, but it's unfortunate because he's so young, and this might legit be his last chance with the Padres in terms of being in the starting rotation. And it sucks because he's so adamant, and his family is so adamant on him being a starter, and I really do think he could be a pretty good reliever. And that's not a knock. I mean, if you're going to be a good reliever at the big league level, then that's a good thing to me. That's a good career. But for him, it seems like he's adamant on being a starter, and the Padres generally have a short leash if you don't succeed within this short time frame. And it's unfortunate because it takes guys some time to succeed, and they go off somewhere else and they end up performing. But the Padres in general do seem to have somewhat of a short leash when it comes to some of these prospects, especially we've seen it before. But yeah, this could be the last chance for the Padres as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, because I think you guys are exactly right. I think maybe more for starter than like on the Padres, but there's also the chance they could be looking to move on from him as well. But it does feel like it's more about him being a starter at this point. Like, all right, here's your last kind of shot at that role. Outside of that, I feel like the only other spring training kind of like updates and stuff that's really noteworthy is Fernando Tatis started out spring slumping super heavy. He has been on an absolute tear lately, and we've got two really good spring performances from Trent Grisham and Luis Campusano, which I know you don't want to look in the spring numbers, but like you can't help but feel encouraged about that. Like you can't feel like, because if either of those guys improves a lot, that's so huge, because those are two positions where you might have the least production out of all of your spots, right? Like think about it. Who's gonna put up the worst numbers offensively? Probably the center field and catching spots this year. Yeah. So if either of those guys turns out to do something good, I think that's huge. So I think that's a really big, like at least an encouraging sign on like maybe more for Grisham. I don't know. I feel like maybe more for Grisham because like we know Campy like his bat is gonna probably play. I don't think spring training's doing too much to like prove Campy. Where with maybe not Grisham either. Man, now I'm just talking myself out of it. But like with Grisham, like we just want to see Grisham succeeding, and I feel like he goes so up and down. But if we can see Grisham be more consistent, like that's gonna go such a long way. So if Grisham starts the year and he's doing pretty good, not like his ridiculous where like Grisham gets like super insanely hot for like a week, not like that. But I mean, like he has like a good first month where he's like hitting like a pretty like consistent line where it's not like, oh look, he had like, the first week of the season he hit 450 and had 6 home runs, and then after that he hit 50 the next 3 weeks. Like that's a problem. Is like he'll do that. So I don't know. Isaac, what was that? You're talking about him hitting 456 home runs first week?
Yeah, that's Bonds, bro.
Well, Bonds but that's the thing. He'll do that and then
he'll hit 6 home runs in 3 games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys remember when that happened?
Yeah, that's the thing is that for Trent Grisham, it's not something that's out of the ordinary. Yeah, I mean it is pretty big for Trent Grisham because from what he said, it's not a matter of his. I think he has a skill set to play, to be a solid center fielder, to be a solid, valuable piece to the team. It just seems like he was so out of whack mentally at the plate. He was so checked out mentally at the plate, and he said that it's affected him pretty bad, and he just needs to get that confidence under his belt again to be able to perform at the plate. So, hopefully spring training is going to help him get that back.
Chase, any thoughts on Campy or Grish?
So I see Daniel's comment saying Grish will be better than last year. It's almost guaranteed.
He was so bad.
It's like
it's not guaranteed.
How much better are we talking? He's going to make an impact on how he actually like affects the team, or is it just going to be okay? He went from hitting 180 to 200, and he did better, but there was no significant impact to his game. I mean, I think that's kind of what everyone's talking about. Like, he has to be better than last year. If there's no way he could be worse, right? Well, I don't want to write that away, but we've also seen Grish's stats through a full 162 games. And if we combine it with the half a year before that, it's like 170 batting average and like a 6-something OPS. It's getting really hard to say he can't be worse when he has shown us that for 200 plus games, he can hit 170. So as much as I want him to bounce back, I'm not getting my hopes up too high just because of the history there. Though with Campy, I've seen him in 2 spring training games this year, and my God, both times he's hit absolute tater shots of home runs. I mean, lasers out of the park quickly. It looks like he's starting to adjust it. When he makes contact with the ball, it's loud, it's hard, it's going, Hopefully, I think Nola's going to be ready by opening day. Hopefully, they give him like an extra week to rest, get, everything dealt with. Getting hit in the face is a pretty big deal, especially by a 90 fastball. So hopefully, they give him like another week's rest, see what Campy has at the beginning of the season. If Campy starts off hot, then, maybe you go the 3-2 and then let Campy DH some days. But hey, hopefully Campy gets some actual reps. I think that's going to be the most important thing this season.
Yeah.
100%. I feel like we're all like, not to riff on Nola, but like I feel like we're all like, all right, let's see some reps from Campy. Like, please,
let's get some power at the plate is more so my thing.
Do you think that there was a time when Campy had an earlier ETA than Tatis? Like, I'm dead serious. There might have been.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, there might have been.
It may have been by like a year.
Yeah.
But if not, they were really close to having the same year.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because we've just been waiting so long.
What was Campy's ETA? 2022?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was 20.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
But it could have been. I mean, it could have been 2021. Like, how old is he now? He's like early 20s.
I think he's 23. I don't think he's
Okay, so
24
probably
yet.
2022. That seems about right. So probably
Mm,
last year. And I guess he did play a little bit. I mean, he had like 3 or 4 at bats in 2020, I think it was. And
yeah.
then he didn't play at all in 2021. And then last year he got a few at bats as well. Or no, maybe no, he did play a little bit in 2021 at the
He
beginning.
did at the start of the season, yeah.
Yeah. But there was like a giant gap for a while.
Yeah.
Or maybe he didn't even play last year. I'm trying to. No, he did, I think, a little bit.
He was on the team last year.
He always comes up for like a week.
Yeah. He played. I remember specifically playing in May in the Giants series.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. But yeah, anything else spring related that you guys have? Because I feel people talking about opening day. Is it gonna rain? It sounds like it's gonna rain, which sucks.
Yeah, 90% chance over here in San Diego. 90% chance of rain. Robert Suarez, for anyone who doesn't know, he's going to start the season on the IL. It looks like Rougned Odor is probably going to make the team. Other than that, no really big spring training updates. Fernando looks good. Soto's healthy. Manny and Xander are going to do their thing, and it looks like we got the decision when it comes to that last roster or that last starting rotation spot. That's about it.
Yeah, I feel like those two, Odor making the roster was kind of like the question mark of like who's going to be the kind of your depth infielder that makes it. And then who's going to come in and have that first start early on. I guess the only other kind of question that we're seeing roster wise is who is going to make the bullpen, I guess. But
yeah.
Morejon's also hurt. So Morejon's out. And Suarez is out. And Palm's out. Or and Pomeranz is out. So like there's 3 guys that aren't there. So like I feel like the numbers start like, okay, wait, this guy is going to make it. Nabil is going to make it. You just kind of start going, okay, this is more of a numbers game, and now these guys are not here. So yeah, I feel like we'll just kind of get like the final roster getting released, but I feel like we kind of already know who it's going to be. But yeah, so I know that later. What were you going to say, Chase?
So who do you think starts the first 20 games in Tatis's spot?
Carpenter, right?
I think it's going to be a mix of Azokar and Dahl.
So you think they're going to immediately do a platoon for DH between Carpenter
I kind of figured Dahl.
Dahl strikes out a lot, but he cooled off since the beginning of his hot spring, but he's shown a little bit of power. I think they're going to give him a chance.
How is Adam Engel done? I haven't kept up on him.
He's hurt. He got hurt again.
He's hurt.
Yeah.
Never mind then. That'll be explained why I haven't heard him.
If he was healthy, he was going to make the roster.
Over Dahl, you think?
Over someone, but I mean, because he posted good numbers in 2021. 2022 was pretty bad, but I think he was like almost guaranteed to at least get a spot. But I mean, shoot, he came into spring training hurt. He came back for a little bit and then got hurt again, so never really came to fruition.
Yeah, he just wasn't. That sucks. Yeah, we'll see what Dahl's got. See, I thought that they were going to put Carpenter in the outfield and then have Cruz DH. That would have been my guess. And then like also like mix in Azokar a little bit and have Dahl somewhat. Nope. I mean, it's going to be some variation. It's not like it's going to be every single day. It's the same group. But I just think, I don't know. For me, I feel like, and tell me if you guys are feeling different, but I feel like knowing who's going to be the primary DH is kind of is like the biggest question mark with Tatis. And then like who's going to be like kind of your depth pieces. But like you look at the infield. Okay, we know who's in the infield, right? Like the only kind of question is like if someone gets hurt, who's going to substitute in? Who's going to move positions? You know, like how are guys going to bounce around? That's kind of the only stuff there. But I feel like for the DH spot, like what is that platoon going to look like with Carpenter and Cruz? Because one of those guys might ball out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of the thought with it. It's like we got these 2 guys. One of them needs to be a really impactful bat.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the hope for sure. And that's a good thing about I mean, we don't have the crazy depth. We have a good amount of depth, especially in the bullpen. So, like, even with 3 guys going down in the bullpen, I'm still really confident. I mean, Fangraphs has us as the second best bullpen in baseball. So I'm really confident in that group. But, you know, that's kind of the saying that goes in the league is, you know, it's 26 man roster, but realistically, you're going to need 40 guys, 50 guys throughout the season to kind of get you through that season. So that's why the depth is so important.
I just counted it. It's actually 18.
Yeah,
18
yeah.
straight?
That's where you're going to see a 6-man rotation. I think that is a guarantee. You will see a 6-man rotation
For basically
right
for
off the
those
bat.
18 days. Yeah.
We play
basically for the stretch
Colorado.
of April. I think.
Yeah, we play Colorado twice. We play Arizona twice. We have April 5th off, and then we don't get another day off until the 23rd. Or actually the 24th, because we play the 23rd.
Dang. That's
Could be
long. That is
fun.
long.
That's lit.
Right off the bat.
I see this take on Carpenter. I think I'm honestly thinking about it more. We probably don't want Carpenter in the outfield, but I was saying with Nelson
No.
Cruz. Definitely not Nelson Cruz.
Mentioned that, but I was like, they do have him listed as a right fielder, but I was like, that'd be like Nelson Cruz playing right field. He's probably a little. You don't want to see it either way.
It's more likely you see Carpenter at third. Even then, I don't think that's going to happen.
Dude, Carpenter kind of can play a lot of spots, or could play a lot of spots, huh? I'm trying to think back, like
maybe not that good, but you could play him.
Yeah, a little bit of
DH.
like bouncing around.
DH first, just make it easy.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you can also move Cronenworth around. Hey, Crone, you're playing left today. He hasn't played left in like like years, and he'll probably just pick it up too. Like I feel like there's just some guys that are like Crone is a legit super utility player. I feel like we might see him a little bit more like that, where it's like, man, he has a day off. Are you gonna play short today? Are you gonna play second today? It would be cool if he played something like 6 positions throughout the year, like he like popped in like right one game or like left or something. I don't know. I think that's cool.
So
I mean, really, the only guys that can't play multiple positions are the catchers and Grisham. I mean, Soto can play the corners.
Well, Grisham could. He could play right.
He can play right, but
you just wouldn't play him right. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
So
there's a lot of positional versatility.
You know what doesn't make any sense?
The
MLB's listing of players.
No, I agree.
Because is a right fielder. He's listed under the MLB as a right fielder, but Jordan and Michael Brantley are listed as DHs.
I don't know how it goes, bro.
So Jordan plays more outfield than Carpenter, right? Like significantly more.
Yes.
That's weird. I feel like it's like I feel like it's kind of random. Also, right here, apparently Carpenter is listed as a third base and MLB The Show.
Good thing it's new and they have found investments.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I see Alex says we need Nelson Cruz to start.
DH, right?
And then Justin says, didn't you guys have flashbacks to Nelson Cruz in the 2011 World Series? Let's just hope it doesn't go down.
I probably didn't even watch the 2011 World Series. It was the Rangers, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
Rangers Cardinals.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember that what happened, but
I think it was a Freeze hit. That was the year when Freeze was going crazy, right? 2011.
Oh,
2011 or 2010.
I forget.
Dude, that dude. Oh my god. Talk about like postseason heroics. Just like straight magic. But yeah, so I think real quick before we get into top fives, I think rest of the week for us, we're gonna do like a Padres season preview episode on Wednesday. Not a live, just a regular episode. And then either Thursday or Friday, it's really just going to depend on when this game is played. Hopefully somehow they play it on Thursday, but it doesn't really seem like that. We will do a post-game live for that opening day. And then on Wednesday, we'll also in that video kind of like season preview episode. We'll kind of explain to you guys what our schedule is going to look like and stuff like that, channel updates, all that, because we're going to start picking up again because season's here and it's an exciting time. But with that said, let's get into these top fives, yeah? Starting so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through them all quickly, just real quick, kind of rapid fire. Like I'm gonna start with the starting pitchers. I'll list all the starters, get your guys' takes on it super fast. And then Chase will go next. He'll do catchers, Isaac first base, and we'll just kind of go in a circle and just kind of rip through them like that. Starting pitchers. Our top 5 starting pitchers: Sandy Alcantara, Corbin Burns, Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander. We have Shohei Ohtani at 5, and we have Max Fried as an honorable mention. I feel like Max Fried is good enough where it's like you could put him over Ohtani. It's kind of just preference. But you definitely have to bring him up if you're talking about the best pitchers in the game. So that's what our top 5 is looking at there. Chase, Isaac, what do you guys think about those 5?
I personally put Fried over Verlander, and then I had Ohtani a little higher up. But I'm just trying to give some fresh blood to the top 5s. I know Justin Verlander had a crazy season last year. Hell, I almost even threw Alek Manoah or Dylan Cease in there. I mean, there's a ton of guys that could fit in that 5th spot, and deservedly so. These are just the guys that I decided to go with just because they have a little bit more history of being true aces, and there could be some regression coming for either Alek Manoah or Dylan Cease, who would have been my honorable mentions.
Yeah. So this is kind of just a consensus of what we all think. Pretty sure that's pretty close to what I had. I had Alcantara, Burns, deGrom, Verlander, Ohtani / Fried, and I really, really, really wanted to put Fried in the top 5, like just outright. But Alcantara won a Cy Young. Burns has won a Cy Young and had good numbers last year. deGrom is, when healthy, arguably the best pitcher in the world. Verlander just put up a season with like a 1.79 ERA, also won a Cy Young. Ohtani just had a 2.2 ERA, going to be in the Cy Young / MVP running every time. So the top 5 pitchers, it was kind of hard to put together, but when you really look into the numbers, it ends up becoming pretty easy.
And I think it's kind of interesting too, because like we have like Sandy Alcantara at 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like he's coming off, best year, he's a Cy Young winner. And then it's Jacob deGrom at 3 and Verlander at 4. So it's kind of like weird if you look at it like that. But it's like, all right, but if Jacob deGrom's healthy, then Jacob deGrom's going to be Jacob deGrom. So that's why he's so high. We're like, also, it's kind of crazy because like the last 2 years, if we're ranking starting pitchers, Jacob deGrom's easily number 1. Like if we would have done this the last 2 seasons, it wouldn't have been a question. So it's like, yeah, him falling to 3, like that's still him falling. Like we might exit the season and go, yeah, Jacob deGrom's 1, duh. Like that's might be how we think it. But pitching's so volatile too. So it's like it's so up and down. So I think it's really interesting. You guys don't want to talk too much about Ohtani, but I feel like Ohtani might cement himself as like the best or he's already one of the best pitchers in the league, but I feel like he might be like winning a Cy Young either this year or next year. Like I feel like that's kind of like, I feel like we always like talk about Ohtani and like see what his goals are and stuff. I feel like that's kind of his goal, is to be like one of the top pitchers in the game. So I think that's really, really interesting. But Chase, you wanna list our catchers real quick?
Wait, hold on. I just want to mention one more thing. I know I see someone saying that Alcantara doesn't get strikeouts. Alcantara had over 200 strikeouts. That is crazy to me. That is an absurd amount of strikeouts. Sure, he didn't match his innings pitched, but he still had over 200 strikeouts. That's crazy. So catchers, this is I think we all agreed this is we didn't have any differences in our top 5 catchers. We had Realmuto, Adley Rutschman, Will Smith, Sean Murphy, and then Wilson Contreras. I don't really think you can have another top 5. I know I like Adley, but there's no way you can put him over Realmuto yet.
Isaac's frozen on us.
Can
you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There he is.
Yeah, so Rutschman had a fantastic year last year, put up like a 5 or a 6 WAR, but Realmuto put up a better WAR. I believe he was like top 10, top 15 in WAR. So he also had a really good season. But those are going to be the consensus top 2 amongst us 3. Will Smith, really good at the plate. I mean, phenomenal at the plate. Whenever I see him, I mean, we play him a bunch, and he's one of the more fearful players in that lineup. Sean Murphy just traded to the Braves. One of the best defensive catchers, if not the best defensive catcher in all of baseball. Wilson Contreras, brand new to the Cardinals, kind of replacing one of the greatest catchers of all time. It's going to be interesting to see how he does. But catcher's kind of a shit show around the league. But when it comes to catchers, these are the consensus top 5. These guys are all pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I don't think that. I think you could change up the order a little bit. Like you could put Sean Murphy ahead of Will Smith. You could put Adley Rutschman over Real Muto. Like if you like really believed in his potential, you know. The only thing I'll say that's worth kind of bringing up is I really wonder. Like I agree that like Will Smith should be a top 5 catcher. I have him at 4 on my personal list, behind Sean Murphy, but he might not be a catcher in 2 years. He really like might not be a catcher anymore. So I think that's the interesting part with Will Smith is like, yeah, we have him as a top 5 catcher, but and I'm blanking on his name, but like the Dodgers, like one of their top prospects is a catcher. So
That's true.
we will see. We will see if he's actually a catcher in a few years. So that'd kind of be the only thing I'd add there. But Isaac, you got the first baseman?
I got the first baseman. So at first base, we got Paul Goldschmidt, fresh off an MVP. Freddie Freeman, 2 years off an MVP. Vladdy, 2 years off a runner-up at MVP. Matt Olson, and then Jose Abreu. You guys want me to go first in terms of kind of explaining our? Yeah, so Paul Goldschmidt obviously last year had a.
You also need to mention why someone's not on the list.
Oh, Pete Alonso. I mean, I'm gonna be straight up. I don't like Pete Alonso. We don't like Pete Alonso. I don't think he's that good. Sorry, but Paul Goldschmidt, fresh off an MVP, of course he was going to be number 1 on the list. Freddie Freeman, arguably the best pure hitter in baseball, really good at attacking great gap to gap hitter, really good at attacking all parts of the field and covering all parts of the plate. Vladdy, so young, fresh off. He had a pretty good season last year, but the season before is not going to be one that we forget in terms of the way that he was phenomenal at the plate. And if it weren't for Ohtani putting up Babe Ruth numbers, he would have won the MVP. Matt Olson, he didn't have that great of a year last year, but I think we're all in consensus that he's going to cement himself back in this top 5 as a consensus top 5 around the league. Jose Abreu, also amazing with the bat, going to be a huge upgrade with the Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like first baseman, I get where the arguments could be in terms of not having Pete Alonso on the list, but like these guys are all pretty good. I mean, you could put him over Olsen or Abreu, but the top 3 should clearly be the top 3 of how they're listed, with Goldschmidt at 1, Freeman at 2, Vladdy at 3. I guess you could move Vladdy up if you really feel like it, because I mean Vladdy's incredible. So you have that, but Goldschmidt's also coming off the best season, and I feel like for those 3 guys, it's just going to kind of be up and down depending on what season it is. But 3 absolute studs. First baseman, I mean, you were talking about kind of how catcher is like an awful position. First baseman's so weird because like it'll just be like, oh look, this guy's gonna plug in here and he's gonna be super productive. So like you can have one of these elite guys, but also if you don't have one of these elite guys, you can still have guys that are pretty solid players. So first base is an interesting spot, but I do feel like the top 3 should be pretty consensus in whatever order you put them in.
Yeah. All right, then Matt, you got
second base.
Yep.
All right, second base. We got Jose Altuve, Ozzy Albies, Ketel Marte, and then Jimenez and Simeon. So I feel like it's a little bit weird at this position just because Ozzy didn't really play last year. We're always super high on Ketel Marte too.
Marte was still a little bit too.
He kind of had a little bit of a down year, I feel like.
Yeah,
so it's such a weird position. You got to have Altuve at 1. That's like the only clear thing with this. Like you could change up the rest of the top 5 a lot, but that's kind of what we went with. We had like very different lists, I want to say, for this position. So it just was kind of like, all right, we had this guy here. We had this guy here. We brought up Jeff McNeil in it too, but we didn't end up adding him onto it. But I mean, there's just a lot of guys. You could put McNeil over like Simeon, but also like Simeon just got a massive contract, and then another guy kind of had like, if I'm right, I want to say he kind of had like a little bit of a down year. So I feel like that's a decent list. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like second base is just not an exciting position, like always.
So like we may be biased towards Ketel Marte because we play him a lot, and for some reason he just kills. And I mean, he absolutely kills the Padres whenever he plays them. I mean, we've seen, I don't know, like a few 2 home run games where he just he wins the game by himself just batting. Like, okay, the Diamondbacks put up 5 runs on us. Ketel Marte had all 5 RBIs. That's usually how it goes. And yeah, he had a little bit of a down year. He's been dealing with some injuries, but when he's healthy, man, he's monstrous. I think we just put him there because of his potential that we've seen before and have dealt with.
Yeah, I think it's a fair list. I think, what did I have? I had Altuve, Jimenez, McNeil, Marte, Simeon. I left Ozzy out just because I mean, of course he's a beast. I just didn't see too much of him last year. And I know he wasn't playing the way Ozzy usually would before that. But Altuve is going to be a consensus number one amongst probably everybody. Jimenez coming off the season, he put up like a 6 WAR. I think he was phenomenal. He was so good with the Guardians, and I think with with the position they've put him in, with the organization he's with, he's only going to continue off that. We have him at 4 here. And then Ketel Marte, like Chase said, every time we watch him, dude balls out. And then who else was it? Oh, Marcus Simeon. He put up B WAR. It was like a 5 or a 6 WAR. It was kind of a down year. He only had like a 750 OPS, something like that, but he'll bounce back. And then who was the other guy? Jeff McNeil. I mean, I wanted to leave Jeff McNeil off my own list, but it was too hard for me just because, I mean, he just won the batting title, so I left him on there.
That's fair.
Chase, shortstops.
All right. We got Mr. Trey Turner, Francisco Lindor, Correa, Xander, and then Wander Franco. I mean, I think I basically had the same list as Isaac. I couldn't find anyone where I would move someone up or take someone down. The only one I was arguing was like maybe Correa over Lindor, but it's like a 2A, 2B scenario. They both could be either one.
Yeah, that was actually my exact list, Chase. I think we all had a consensus that was going to be good to go. Trey Turner is obviously the best shortstop, not only because of his hitting prowess, but he's also a monster on the base paths, and he's pretty good defensively. I actually originally had Correa above Lindor. Did a little bit of deeper searching, ends up Lindor was 7th in WAR, had almost a 7 WAR, was phenomenal last year, was a beast, and he was the heart. I think he was the heart of that lineup in New York. Carlos Correa only had a 4 WAR last year, but season before he was phenomenal, best shortstop in the AL. So he's at 3. Xander Bogaerts last year had made a massive improvement on the defensive end, 6-1 WAR. Wander Franco, I think he's gonna put up a 6 WAR this year.
Yeah, I like that Wander Franco take too, because I feel like that, like, it's not like people don't think Wander Franco is good, but like Wander Franco might be thought of as like a great player in a year or two, which is and sometimes like it takes a while for like these guys, because Wander Franco is one of the most hyped up prospects in quite some time, where like he might get there. Like we got to be a little bit patient. It takes some time for some of these dudes. I do think we didn't mention one guy though. I think honorable mention, you got to put Bo Bichette, just because he's a stud. Yeah. But shortstop stacked. Like shortstop's a position where you have a lot of high-end players. I agree with Trey Turner at 1. I feel like a lot of people sleep on Trey Turner. I'll say this. I personally do not like Trey Turner. I just don't like him for some reason. But like, I still agree. Like he's clearly the best shortstop in the league. So have him at 1. Lindor, Correa, Xander, Wander, like all studs across the board at shortstop. Isaac?
What's next? We got third baseman. All right.
Oh yeah, so you get to do this one.
Disclaimer before I start this.
You get to say your personal list first.
My personal list was Manny Machado, Jose Ramirez, Nolan Arenado, Austin Riley, Rafael Devers. Let me tell you guys, I don't hate Nolan Arenado. You know damn well I don't like Nolan Arenado. I'm indifferent about him, but I just hate that I see him making these plays that Manny makes in his sleep. And it's like, Nolan Arenado made the greatest play of all time. Like, what the fuck? I just saw Manny make that last week. But I also just really like Jose Ramirez. I think he is a phenomenal player. And I think Nolan Arenado's WAR last year was higher. But I mean, I'm pretty sure I just think Jose Ramirez is a better player. But our consensus list is Machado, Arenado, Ramirez, Riley, Devers. Machado came off a runner-up MVP last year, finishing second to Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado finishing third. Jose Ramirez, I don't know what he finished in the MVP race, but he was pretty. I think he was like top 5. Austin Riley got not even a fat extension. The Braves fleeced him. And Rafael Devers just put up a 6 WAR with Boston, or maybe a low 5. But it wasn't really hard for us to put up that third base, and the third base when we were all in consensus of who was going to be in our top 5.
I know that. Isaac, I know you had Arenado low, and I definitely don't think. Oh, Chase is gone. Chase's computer just died. So yeah, I think that I know that you had Arenado 3. I think Arenado has got to be 2, just because he's put up great numbers.
I'm gonna keep.
I do wonder what we think about third base in like 3 years, though, because there's very clearly a top 3 list. Like, you clearly have Machado, Arenado, and Ramirez. Like, those guys are all insanely good. So I wonder how it's going to change, but I do think you got to put Arenado at 2. What is this, 3 or 4 years in a row now? Machado's put up better numbers than Arenado. I feel like it's pretty clear that he's the better third baseman at this point. If you think Arenado, like, I get why people think that, but just like it hasn't been the case. It hasn't been the case for quite some time.
No, it is not.
And he's playing against worse competition, so it's just I don't really get it all that much. But moving on, left field. Maybe you guys think this is biased, maybe not. Juan Soto at 1, Yordan Alvarez at 2, Randy Arozarena at 3, Kyle Schwarber at 4, and Taylor Ward at 5. I think some people will probably have Yordan above Soto. I feel like most baseball fans would probably have Soto above Yordan. Either way, you're getting a ridiculous slugger. Also, I know Yordan and Schwarber are more like DHs, but like we're going to put them out of position in this just because we're not doing a DH list just because it's kind of odd. And then Arozarena, Ward, studs there. Arozarena was really good in the World Baseball Classic. I feel like another guy, we mentioned Wander Franco's teammate. Arozarena, another guy that can continue to kind of climb up the board in this kind of stuff. But if your 1-2 isn't Juan Soto and you're on Alvarez, I don't know what to say. Like that has to be.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong. Juan Soto, potential to probably win the MVP. Like, he's honestly, I'm pretty sure he's the favorite to win the MVP in the NL. So he was going to be our number 1, and for good reason. That's the Ted Williams of this generation. And maybe you could argue that Yordan could be above Soto in the sense that, I mean, Yordan had an insane season at the plate last year, but we put him there because I don't think he plays enough games in left field to really warrant being the top left fielder in baseball. So he's not going to be number 1 on our list, whereas Soto is going to play almost all his games in left field. Arozarena had an amazing WBC, but kind of a player that just gets slept on just because he's on the Braves. Like, it's going to be the same thing with Wander, even if he puts up a 5 or 6 WAR. Because he's on the Rays, it's not going to be talked about a lot. Schwarber, fresh off, what was it, like a 35, 40 home run season with the Phillies. Fucking stud. Not taking him out. Just absolutely insane. We should have signed him. I wish we did, but who cares?
Isaac, you remember we wanted him so bad?
Dude, we were so high on him. We really wanted him. And then Taylor Ward, we put at 5. Maybe there's bias there. There's bias there. I'm not going to lie. He went to a school that was like 10 minutes away from us. He's from where we're from, but he also had a pretty damn good season last year, and now he has a lot more lineup protection this year than he did last year. Hunter Renfroe was added to the lineup. Urshela was added to the lineup. Mike Trout's going to be back, so he has more protection, and I think he's going to have an even better year than last year.
Yeah, and if the Angels are going to be good, he's a guy that's like, we always say that the Angels complementary pieces aren't good. If he's good, that could go a long way for them, and that could be huge for them. Center field.
Yeah.
Easy number 1. Easy number 1 in center field. We got Mike Trout, Julio Rodriguez, Byron Buxton, Michael Harris, and then at number 5, we kind of did a combo. Either Brandon Nimmo or Brian Reynolds, whichever guy you want to take at number 5. I think that you're 1 and 2. This is also another position where it should be really consistent. You should have Trout at 1, and you should have Julio Rodriguez at number 2. If for some reason you don't have Trout at 1, that's basically only because of injury and kind of getting older. But in terms of talent, in terms of skill set, Trout is still very clearly your number 1 center fielder.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, arguably the second best player in baseball. So that was going to be a consensus amongst all three of us. Julio Rodriguez, fresh off a really damn good season with the Mariners. I think it was like a 6-1. And he's going to be one of the cornerstones for that franchise and one of the cornerstones of baseball. Byron Buxton, honestly, if he played a full season, he'd probably be number 2. But the problem is he just doesn't. Michael Harris just got a contract extension, and we're looking for big things from him. Brandon Nimmo, fresh off a five-war season, and we put Slash Reynolds because, I mean, Reynolds has had some pretty good seasons, and there's a pattern going on here. Reynolds has a season with like a 6-war and then a 3-war or a 2-war. He was off a 2.9 last year, so now he's going to put up a 6 this year. So we had to put him in the top 5 for sure. And you want me to do right fielders?
Yeah, right fielder's last one.
Right fielder's last one. So we got Aaron Judge. We had a hard time because we don't know if we want to put Bryce Harper in there, but in the event that, he does come back and play some right field, because he's going to be off Tommy John. I don't know if he is going to play right field at all this year, but let's say he does. He's going to be second. I put Fernando Tatis Jr. at third, Mookie Betts at fourth, Ronald Acuna Jr. at fifth. Unfortunately, had to leave out Kyle Tucker, who's a really damn good hitter for the Astros, but maybe you could put Acuna Jr. / Tucker. But let's say Harper weren't to play any right field this year, it would be Judge, Tatis, Betts, Acuna, Tucker. And I think Chase had it a little different. But I mean, Aaron Judge is fresh off 60+ home runs. He just won an MVP. Huge contract extension. He had to be number 1. Fernando Tatis Jr., yeah, we understand defensively he might not be the best out there to begin, but the athleticism and all his tools, I think he's going to end up being a pretty damn good right fielder. And we know that he can hit 35, 40 home runs this year. Mookie Betts, at one point considered the second best player in baseball, probably still considered a top 10 player in baseball. He's had to be number 3. Ronald Acuna Jr. off a really bad injury last year, didn't have his best season, but expecting big things from him again this year to kind of put himself in the top 5, top 10 MVP discussion. And then if you want to put Bryce Harper in there, I mean, there's not much to talk about. The guy is phenomenal. He's lived up to all the hype that you could think of, whether it be the phenom or whatever it is. He's won an MVP twice. He's gone to the World Series. He's everything, man. Just a phenomenal ball player.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting position as well, because it's like, all right, you got your number 1 in Aaron Judge just because he had such a ridiculous season, and then Kyle Tucker was awesome last year, but like Acuna was coming back, Tatis didn't play at all, Mookie has been kind of a little bit injured the last couple years, but like, what was it, 2 years ago, we might have had the list, not us, but like anyone might have had the list going Tatis, Betts, and Acuna in some order as 1, 2, and 3 all over Judge. Like that could have been your list a couple years ago, just because, and that's not to like slight Aaron Judge. It's like, oh, Aaron Judge wasn't good, these guys. No, like Mookie, Tatis, and Acuna have had some insanely high highs. So that's where it's tough with this stuff. And it's like, yeah, like Kyle Tucker's a beast, Acuna's a beast. Like all these guys, all these 6 players that we mentioned are ridiculous, like superstars, So it's just interesting on how you list it, because say where we have a Tatis, you have Kyle Tucker, like, okay, I could get behind that because we're looking at it from a Tatis hasn't played right field that much, Kyle Tucker has. But then if you're looking at it from like a projection standpoint, okay, well, we're thinking both Acuna and Tatis are going to bounce back. If Mookie's healthy, Mookie's one of the very best players in the league. So it really just like, it's a very odd position to rank. And I remember when we were ranking the position last year, it was also really odd. And then I want to say it's either after we have Kyle Tucker ranked, or maybe there's one more guy. There is a insane drop off in right field. Like you have the super elite players, and then it just falls off a cliff, and there's like no one after that. So it's a really odd position, but I think that you have maybe the most stacked crew in right field. Would you say that? Probably the best position in the league?
Yeah, I mean, just stars on stars on stars, man. That's one of the most fun positions in baseball. I'm glad because right field used to be the place that you just kind of threw someone, unless you were a lefty. Then obviously if you out there, you had Ichiro was out there sometimes. I mean, there's been some pretty good players in right field, but I don't think right field's ever been as good as it is right now.
Yeah. I see there's some people talking in the comments about different guys. I don't understand how Mookie Betts drops in people's top 10, but Trout doesn't. Hey, dude, if people don't have Trout in their top 10, I don't know. I saw a list, and I think we talked about this on the show. Do you remember that list I saw where they had Real Muto over Harper? And they had like Trout like super
Oh yeah,
super
no, that
low.
was ridiculous. People are
And it was like,
gonna factor in, yeah. I mean, people are gonna factor Trout's injuries, but he's kind of like DeGrom in the sense that he's still one of the top players in the world, if not, if not one of the top 5, definitely one of the top 10.
Yeah. All right, Isaac. I feel like that's probably gonna do it tonight. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Good to go.
All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all soon. We will be back on Wednesday. We'll just post a video, and then opening day post game stream probably like evening time, like 5:30, not like right after the game ends. So I think it's like slated at like 1:00. I want to say on Thursday. Obviously depending on the rain, but
Right.
we'll be doing a stream then. Also for that game, we will also be doing a giveaway as well. So make sure to hop in that later on in the stream. We'll do that. I'll post some stuff on YouTube about that as well. But we will be doing a 2-ticket giveaway also. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. And baseball's right around the corner. So exciting stuff. But yeah, have a great night, everyone. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday and hopefully Thursday. Really hoping Thursday, because rating out opening day, like I feel like that's just like not a good idea, like not a good sign, right? Like that's just kind of like sus, especially like how superstitious baseball is. Like that's not
for sure.
But yeah, all right, guys, have a great night. We'll talk to y'all soon.